Hello there, and welcome to the EDC Empire. Today, we are going to be taking a look at the Microtech Glykon. The Microtech Glykon is a USA-made Microtech OTF, which has a couple of kind of unique features which separate it apart from other American-made OTFs and other OTFs in Microtech's own line. The first and kind of most apparent unique aspect of the Glykon is its tri-switch design, meaning that you have this top switch, which just kind of operates as a normal back switch, and then you've also got these double face and I guess also back switches, which mean that you can operate it kind of like an axis lock when closing it, and I guess when opening it, but that's a little bit more difficult. In fact, I'm not sure I could do that. But you can also use these side switches kind of obviously as an opening method, kind of like what you would with a face switch OTF. It's not quite as comfortable as just a normal face switch OTF, but it does kind of make the Glykon a little bit unique and give it that extra bit of fun and fidget factor that sets it apart from something like a normal OTF that just has a spine or back switch where you can only push forward and push back, and you don't have any other method to use it. The blade material of the Microtech Glykon is Bohler M390, and then it has this nice double-edged bayonet with a slightly smaller edge on the back, meaning that you can then have some jimping and a place to choke up if you so feel the desire. The blade is flat ground, and then you have handle materials of aluminum and titanium. The aluminum is pretty much all of the bronze area, and then all of the gray area, so the clip, these inlays, and this backspacer, and I believe that even the switch are all titanium, which means that really it is quite a fun thing, or kind of unique actually, compared to other OTFs in Microtech's line, to be able to have titanium on a just base model. You're going to have an overall length on the Glykon of 8.97 inches when open and 5.22 inches when closed. Then you're going to have an overall depth, not including the switch, of 1.23 inches and a width at, I wouldn't say the pivot, I guess just the general opening area of about ½ an inch, which means that compared to a Spyderco PM2, it's about on average. And then getting into some size comparisons, we have the Spyderco PM2 and the Para 3. As you can see here, it is larger than both of those. And then we've got the Civivi Elementum and the Delica 4, again, larger than both. And then we've got, for our final comparisons, the Benchmade Bugout and a well-known OTF, the only other well-known OTF that I have, which is the Lightning. A Lightning Elite, actually, but there's no size difference between the Lightning Elite and the Lightning. You have a blade length of 3.75 inches, and then an edge length of 3.6 and 2.6, respectively, depending on if you're counting the main or secondary edge, or measuring the main or secondary edge. Then you have a blade stock of 0.125 inches, which is a little bit thicker than I would like to be seeing on a double-edged knife in general, but it's definitely serviceable, and overall, the cutting experience on the thinner part of the blade, or I guess the part closer to the tip, was definitely nice. Getting back here was a little bit of an issue. Cutting back here was really not very fun, and I'll get into that later on. And then we also have a weight of 5.27 ounces, which means that your ratios really aren't great, but they're also serviceable. And to be honest, with the pocket clip and this really carryable just shape, it wasn't bad if you're wearing just pants. If you're wearing like sports attire, it's probably not going to be what you're going to want to carry, but to be honest, if I'm carrying a knife in that kind of attire, I'm going to be going something really light, like the Bugout, or something smaller than even that. So, yeah, I don't really know if carrying an OTF is what I would want to carry in that case anyways. First off, before we get into my kind of notes, I do want to remind everyone that there is going to be some legality challenges to this knife. Because it is considered an automatic knife, you may not be able to carry or even own this knife depending on your state that you live in. And also, it is a double-edged OTF, which brings up more legality issues. So just keep that in mind, look into your knife laws, and determine whether this is a right fit for you. This knife is actually deceivingly large. With a blade length of 3.75 inches, you wouldn't think that it is that large. And to be honest, I didn't think it was that big until about 20 minutes ago when I was getting size comparisons ready. And I realized I'm going to bring out the PM2 and the Para 3 again. It is a lot bigger than I thought. The blade is obviously going to be smaller than the handle. That's just how an OTF is naturally going to be. But I really was kind of surprised by that. I didn't really notice it while carrying, which I'm actually pretty impressed with and has made me enjoy this design quite a lot more. And yeah, that's genuinely a positive. The clip, on the other hand, is a little bit disappointing. I do like that it's a nice milled titanium clip, but it's a little bit tight and there's not much of a ramp on there. There is a ramp, but it's not super large, and if you're wearing thicker pants, it's a little bit of a hassle to get into your pants. It's not bad, but I did notice it ripping up the seams a little bit, and it was just a rougher clip than I would have liked to see on this knife. This is the first Microtech I've ever owned, so I don't really have a place to compare this to, but I will say the edge of this knife at the tip was very nice, but as it comes back to the flat, it's a little bit too thin in my opinion, being that the edge geometry itself is at too much of a steep angle, and it's just a very thin edge, and usually I'm not opposed to a thin edge, but when it comes into making something difficult to cut, or it not really even cutting at all, it is a little bit annoying. I was struggling to occasionally cut through paper or even like strip wire with this part of the blade, and I was using more of the tip than I would have liked to on something like this where the tip is quite delicate. So you may actually have to resharpen the Glykon when you get it. That's something I definitely plan on doing in the future with mine. I actually love this tri-switch, and I hope that they implement it into more designs. This was one of the first nice OTFs that I've owned. Actually, this is the most expensive OTF that I've purchased. The other two OTFs that I do have, as I showed earlier, are the Lightning, and then the Guardian Tactical GTX 025, which we'll get into a comparison with this and this later on. So I was really happy to see some extra features on this, and I did get to feel out a few other Microtechs before purchasing this, and this was by far my favorite, so I think it was well worth it, and the switch is just really quite fun. The blade shape is pretty cool. I like that you still have that double edge, so I can keep this one nice and sharp for when I need to do something with a sharp edge. But I also have a way of being able to choke up and use it. I like the idea of that, but to be honest, I've never really felt that I need to choke up this far and use this jimping. It is there so I could use it, but here is plenty close to me. I don't really think I ever will need to push down on it, and I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a version actually that had a blade go all the way back. That being said, this was a draw point to me, and if you do ever push down and do push cuts, this actually could be kind of a benefit as well. The comfort of the Glykon is a little bit worse than I would have expected. The lines are just pretty general. It's basically just like holding onto a bar. But the clip, while milled, is actually a little bit of a hot spot in some cases. Under normal EDC use, it's really not bad. It's perfectly serviceable. But after extended use, breaking down boxes and whatnot, I definitely was feeling the clip and was a little bit disappointed with that. I like the action of the Glykon. I can definitely feel it's pretty stiff and definitely more difficult to actuate the switch, especially compared to something like my Guardian Tactical, where it's a lot smoother. But I actually really like it, and you can definitely feel that it has a little bit more power behind it than something like my Guardian Tactical. The switch is less smooth because the Guardian Tactical does have ball bearings under the switch. So if you're looking for more of a smooth action, definitely looking at a larger version of the Guardian Tactical OTFs is something to consider. But this is quite a nice action. It's a little bit beefier, a little bit louder, and just kind of a little bit more, I don't want to say industrial, but just beefy. Finally, the titanium add-ons are really nice to see. It does just add that extra spark and kind of fun element. Even just the black aluminum, which is kind of the more standard version, is just a more interesting piece with these extra, I'm going to call them inlays. The atomic finish, which is put on them, and the blade is really nice. I actually really enjoy it. And yeah, I like that there's just some titanium inlays. The fitting on them is pretty good. This side, it fits a little bit better, and it's a pretty smooth transition. Here, I can feel a little bit of a step up from the titanium up to the aluminum, which is a little bit disappointing if I'm being honest. This is not a cheap knife. It's about $535, depending on if you're going the version. Some serrated versions are more expensive, and if you wanted to get one of their upgraded versions, it's going to get quickly more expensive. But yeah, the base is going to be around $535, so not cheap. And to be honest, that's something I would kind of expect to see as a little bit better fitment without that step up. But it's not super noticeable, and yeah. Overall, the Glykon is a really nice American-made OTF. If you want a Microtech as one of your first full-sized OTFs, this is definitely a good consideration. There are some others that I highly recommend that you take a look at. But I really enjoy the Glykon, and overall, it's a very recommended OTF. If you own the Glykon, please consider commenting down below what you think about it. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving me a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.